The most explosive action revenge film of 2023 has finally arrived. This is the latest movie from legendary director John Woo's Silent Night. The story follows a father who, driven by grief and rage, takes on an entire criminal gang alone to avenge his son. No wasted time, no filler, non-stop intensity from start to finish. So let's jump straight into the movie. The main character, Brian, lives a simple and happy life with his wife and young son. On a bright, peaceful afternoon, the family is playing together in their yard, enjoying an ordinary moment of happiness. But suddenly, the sound of gunfire shatters the calm. Two rival gangs are engaged in a violent shootout just down the street. Instinctively, Brian throws himself over his son to protect him. When the chaos finally clears and the gunmen flee, Brian slowly realizes the unthinkable. His son has been hit. A stray round has pierced straight through the child's chest. Brian clutches his son's small hand, unable to process what's happening. As the life drains from his boy's body, grief turns instantly into uncontrollable rage. He chases after the fleeing gang members, blinded by pain. The shootout between the two gangs is still raging, bullets flying as if the street were a battlefield. Neither side shows any mercy. Eventually, the gang driving a blue Range Rover comes out on top and prepares to leave. Refusing to let them escape, Brian grabs a metal rod from a pile of trash and waits near their exit. As the engine roars closer, he smashes the windshield with all his strength, but the attack barely slows them down. Instead, they mistake him for a rival gang member and open fire. Outgunned, Brian runs for his life. A forklift suddenly appears, giving him a chance to leap away, but the driver isn't so lucky and dies on impact. Then a bald man covered in tattoos steps out of the vehicle. Holding a Desert Eagle, without hesitation, he shoots Brian. Brian struggles to turn around, and the man fires again, this time hitting him directly in the throat. By sheer luck, Brian survives. But when he wakes up in the hospital, he realizes the cost. He has permanently lost his ability to speak. With his wife caring for him, Brian's body slowly recovers, but the pain of losing his son never fades. Back at home, he finds the gift he bought for his child, still unopened. Every corner of the house reminds him of what he's lost. He quits his job and locks himself in the basement. Drowning his grief in alcohol, his wife tries everything, but nothing reaches him. One day, Brian finds a detective's business card, the officer who handled the case while he was unconscious. He goes to the police station, hoping for answers. Inside the detective's office, he sees photos of a Mexican crime gang pinned to the wall. Brian secretly photographs them. Among them is the bald man, the one who pulled the trigger. At that moment, Brian makes a decision. If justice won't come, he will deliver it himself. He throws away every bottle of alcohol and begins training relentlessly. His wife eventually leaves, unable to live with the obsession, but Brian doesn't stop. Revenge becomes his only purpose. Months later, he infiltrates the gang's territory, documenting everything. The bald man is the leader, his final target. Before leaving, Brian photographs a lieutenant's license plate. That night, he breaks into the man's house and knocks him unconscious. When the lieutenant wakes up, he's tied up in Brian's home. Brian cuts his restraints just enough to force cooperation, handing him paper and pen. The questions are clear: names, locations, operations. The man resists and attacks, stabbing Brian repeatedly. Despite his lack of real combat experience, Brian refuses to go down. After a brutal fight, he finally kills the lieutenant. On the anniversary of his son's death, Brian makes his move. He leaves the lieutenant's body at the police chief's house, along with a flash drive. Inside is a year's worth of evidence, crimes, locations, names, everything. As the police scramble, Brian drives toward the gang's headquarters. The war has begun, and this time, he won't miss. But the gang leader mistakes the incident for provocation from a rival crew. Furious, he orders his men to strike back immediately. Within minutes, a violent shootout erupts between the two sides. During the chaos, a female police officer rushes to the scene only to be caught in the crossfire and shot down. Seeing this, the man chambers around, slams the gas pedal, and charges straight into the battlefield. He shows no hesitation. Anyone in his path is met with a hail of bullets. The gang members are completely unprepared and fall one after another. Everything happening on the street is secretly recorded by a low-level thug on his phone. He sends the video to the bald crime boss. But just as the thug tries to escape, the man rams him with his car. He picks up the fallen phone, aims at the thug, and executes him without mercy. On the other end of the video call, the bald boss witnesses his man's death in real time. Suddenly, memories flood back. The man he thought he killed a year ago. An ominous feeling creeps into his gut. At that moment, another gang member spots the man and slams his car into him. Caught off guard, the man barely regains control. He shifts gears, floors it, and disappears into a narrow alley. The tattooed enforcer quickly gives chase, but he doesn't expect the man to suddenly brake, causing a pickup truck ahead to crash, with no time to react. The enforcer plows straight into it. A motorcycle joins the pursuit from behind. The man swerves sharply into another alley and deliberately slows down. As the biker closes in and raises his gun, the man grabs his arm and slams the bike against the wall. Sparks explode everywhere. The biker is forced to abandon the motorcycle, clinging helplessly to the car. Moments later, with everything settled, the man parks at an abandoned factory. He takes out his son's favorite music box, puts on his coat, mounts the motorcycle, and races toward his final destination. Just before the garage door of the gang's hideout closes, he slides inside, gun in hand. He opens fire, exchanging bullets with the gang members inside. Spotting a motorcycle leaking fuel nearby, he pulls out a shotgun and fires into the gas tank. A massive explosion erupts, instantly engulfing several gang members. Taking advantage of the chaos, he moves fast and deadly, eliminating enemies one by one. With shotgun in hand, he fights his way upward, clearing every floor. Anyone who enters his line of sight is killed without exception. After dealing with the guards below, he reaches the top floor hall. To secure his path, he plants several explosives along the way, but suddenly, he's tackled from behind. The tattooed enforcer survived the crash completely unharmed. The man fights back, but the enforcer sweeps his legs and disarms him. Pinned to the ground, he's beaten mercilessly and nearly killed. Just in time, reinforcements arrive, triggering the explosives the man planted earlier. The blast distracts the enforcer, giving the man his opening, but the enforcer is relentless. The two brawl from the hallway into the gang's armory. The enforcer grabs a rifle and unleashes a storm of bullets. When the magazine runs dry, the man charges in, grappling once more. This time, he finally gains the upper hand, forcing the enforcer against the wall, reloading, and firing at point-blank range. Meanwhile, the police chief follows the coordinates the man provided earlier, after eliminating the remaining guards outside. He reaches the rooftop. When the two men meet, neither raises a weapon. The chief understands the pain of a father, and the man senses the chief's hatred for true evil. They lower their guns in silent agreement. Suddenly, gunfire erupts inside. The chief steps out and is instantly shot in the arm. Seizing the moment, the man flanks from the other side and confronts a female gunman, cornered. She drops her weapon and puts on a helpless expression. The man hesitates, knowing she's been forced into this by the bald boss. He slowly lowers his gun. That hesitation nearly costs him everything. She suddenly draws another weapon and opens fire. The wounded officer is hit again and collapses. This time, the man doesn't hesitate. He pulls the trigger and kills her. Barely standing, he staggers into the main hall. The bald boss is waiting. The man raises his gun, but he's exhausted, completely spent. He takes dozens of bullets and crashes to the ground, unable to fight back. Just as the boss prepares to finish him, the police chief arrives. Using his last strength, the man tackles the boss, smashing his fists into his face again and again. Finally, he wraps his hands around the boss's throat and squeezes until the life leaves his body. The revenge is complete, but so is the man. As his strength fades and death approaches, his mind drifts back to the happiest days of his life, when his family was whole and his son was still alive.